Hey everybody, welcome on into the Delmarva Sports Insider, your only live and local show dedicated to giving you all local sports here on the shore. I'm Sports Director Brandon Bossert.
What is up? It is yours truly, sports anchor Devin J. Martin. Welcome to the show. It's finally that time of year, Brandon. Mid-August, it's time to talk some football. It's been so long since we've had some football here in Delmarva, but it's finally back.
You know what? I noticed something tonight. You go outside, the air it smells different. It smells like football season.
It sure does. And you see more people. People are just happier, especially how big football here is on the shore and in Delaware. Everyone's just happy to be outside and get some good action on the gridiron finally.
And especially with how hot it's been, and now it's cooling off a little bit. We're getting toward football season. Fantastic. A lot of fun getting out to the practices this week. We went out to almost, I would say, a dozen teams earlier this week.
Yeah, I know. A lot of really good teams, a lot of teams that are trying to go for some more greatness, and a lot of teams that are trying to take a step forward and potentially become contenders themselves. Obviously, one team that we saw this week was Smyrna. They're the defending 3A state champions, and they set a real high standard for themselves in terms of what is successful and what's not successful. We caught up with the defending 3A champs as they prepare to defend that crown.
You could return all 22 starters from that team, and it's going to be a different year.
We got a target on our back, and people are going to want to come after us.
We're kind of taking that mentality like we haven't done anything yet, so we got to work.
The Eagles look to defend their 3A title, but gone are team leaders Ymir Knight, Nate Chandler, and quarterback Brian Wright. Smyrna has been busy trying to fit the right pieces into their puzzle.
The young guys that are just, they can play, but they're learning how to play as a unit. These scrimmages that we have are going to be ultra important so that we can learn from that and have it on film. And then I just think that we're going to settle into what we do best.
Just because Smyrna lost some big weapons doesn't mean they plan on playing conservatively. For them, it's not rebuilding, it's reloading.
I think with the guys that we got this year, I think it's going to be another great season, offensive line. So I think we're going to be able to move a lot of bodies this year again.
And then offensively, we have a bunch of kids that can run, a bunch of kids that are explosive, and we're just going to, as usual, try to get them the ball in space and play fast and attack teams.
The defense has lost multiple starters on all three levels. Coach Judy says he still sees playmaking ability.
As a whole, this team has the ability to really eat up the yardage, make big plays defensively, big plays for losses, sacks, interceptions. We have the ability to do so.
And of course, when playing the Eagles, you always have to watch out for that wild card.
And we'll always have something up our sleeves as usual, but we'll roll that out when we need to.
They always got something up their sleeves, do the Smyrna Eagles, and they begin their season in a neutral game in Wilmington at Abysinio Stadium against Mannheim Central from Pennsylvania coming up on September 1st. So let's talk about the Eagles and their title chances for this year. Smyrna, they always play a lot of players, and that's how they always have players ready to step in at any given time. You'll notice that they do rotate in a lot of players, and that's why they'll have a lot of new guys with game experience this year. Very important when you lose 6 starters on the defensive side. Even though that defense was number 1 in the entire state last year, it's going to be difficult to replace all of those players. And I talked to Coach Judy, and he said, we're going to get better as the season goes along, and that's what Smyrna did last year, too. They lost to Middletown in week 2 of the season by 7 points up in Middletown. Come back in the championship game, blow out Dover by 45 points. That team got better every single week. And that's what they're going to do this year as well with a bunch of young players. And they have a lot of athleticism on that Smyrna team. Always do. Always do.
And you mentioned they lost a lot of pieces on the defensive end, but they also lost a lot of pieces or big pieces on the offensive end, losing their quarterback and their running back as well. So it's going to be really hard to see. And it's going to be hard for them to come back from that. But that's the challenge of high school football when you lose pieces to graduation about, what can you do the same thing and have the same success with different faces? And there's a good possibility that Smyrna has a chance to go back to the state championship for a 3rd year in a row.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to watch. One thing we didn't talk about in that piece was the quarterback situation. They have 2 seniors that are vying for that quarterback title right now. Coach Judy said No one's in the lead as of right now, but they're doing a really good job being teammates, pushing each other. So that's what you want to hear if you're a Smyrna fan.
Now, from one state champion to another state champion, it's the Laurel Bulldogs. They're coming off the greatest success that they've had in program history, an undefeated season, back-to-back 1A state titles. And now they only have to replace the most decorated senior class in school history. I mean, they could do it, I guess. We'll see.
I think they could do it.
Yeah, and not only do they have to do that, just like how Smyrna has to deal with some new faces in some very important positions, but they also have to jump from the 1A to the 2A.
It's going to be very difficult to do. It's going to be a difficult transition.
Yeah, it is going to be a difficult transition. But, I mean, if any team deserved and needed to get moved up to another level, it was definitely the Bulldogs because they ran over and really bulldozed over all of their competition in the years that they were in the 1A. I don't think they lost to a 1A opponent. They were like 18-2.
They did not.
Yeah, 18-2.
They needed to get moved up. And we talked about it many times.
Yep, and it was them and St. Elizabeth's were the two teams that were always destined to be in the state championship games for the last 2 years in a row, and that's exactly what happened. And so they were led in large part thanks to an offense led by quarterback Caden Shockley, who's gone, and running back Hylese Wilson, who's also gone.
Yep, Laurel will now have Caden's younger brother, Kobe, leading the offense under center. Head coach Joey Jones says he now has even more options with this year's roster, more flexibility. And thanks to the dominance of the last 2 years, the Bulldogs are now bumping up in weight class to the 2A, joining rivals like Delmar, Woodbridge, Milford, Lake. And the move up seems to have taken a lot of the pressure off of the Bulldogs, if you believe that.
You know, that 2A District 3 last 2 years was a battle. So, you know, pretty much the same group now having joined them. So just looking forward to basically the Henlopen South again and getting these guys back where we felt we belong all along.
Now we got to go to another Henlopen South team is Delmar. They've always seemed to be that step right below a contender in the 2A.
Last couple of years, yeah, they're a few seasons removed from a championship a few years ago.
Yeah, absolutely, especially since I've been here. I've really wanted to see them take that extra step. Maybe this year can be the year for them to get back to that title contending status.
Yeah, so this Delmar team started off strong but faded down the stretch last year. They're looking to build off of that playoff appearance from last fall. Wildcats finished with an overall record of 4-7, elimination in the first round of the playoffs, but that season is in the rear view and now a new season on the horizon. The task ahead for Coach Dave Hearn is filling the holes on that offense and defense that last year's seniors leave behind. He tells us this year's pack of Wildcats will look different with returning faces you'll remember and some that are very new to the program.
It's a young team, so we've had to go about things slow, you know, to one step at a time. Really the same thing you do every time, but we've got a lot of guys who are new to our program, and then we've got some guys who are returners, so they've got to be leaders and role models. You know, we lost a 1,000-yard rusher and one of our best linemen. In Derek Fuchs, but Jalen Johnson and our quarterback. So it's some key people, it's key holes that we've got to refill.
I feel like that's a theme with the Wildcats in recent years is they have to get young guys into their system. Well, they kick off the season with my alma mater, the Dickinson Rams, the Ramley, Friday, September 1st, down here in Delmar.
Now we're going to move on to yet another Henlopen squad, and this time we're going to the Seaford Blue Jays, who were in the 1A, and they were on fire last season, Brandon. They were putting up 34 points a game.
It was explosive last year, the Seaford Blue Jays. We thought that they would give Laurel a run for their money last year.
Yeah, and they didn't get the chance to even do that. Obviously, they lost to them during the regular season last year, and they did face St. Elizabeth in a shootout loss. I think it was
something
like
a 45 to 36, something like
game.
that.
So it was pretty close, but the defense couldn't get enough stops. But now Seaford's roster from last season is going to be a lot different from where they were going to be this season. Obviously, gone is quarterback Kareem Bolden and all-state receiver Avion Matthews. She's going up to Middletown. Also is gone is former head coach Mark Quillen. But in is new head coach Austin Perry. He's been coaching with the Seaford Blue Jays as an assistant coach for the past couple years. And he says not to underestimate Seaford this season.
Being the underdog, I guess you could say. I know a lot of people see, big names that have left the school district, which is fine. Those boys know I still got love for them. I wish them the best. But there's some new kids in town. There's some new kids willing to step up and take over those carries, those catches, and take the reins of the offense and to take the reins of the defense. And I just want people to know that Seiford's in good hands, and I expect our kids to show them that, starting with this Friday scrimmage and definitely on August 31st when Woodbridge comes to town for week 0.
So, yeah, even though Seiford did lose all of that talent, now that Laurel's out of the 1A, I feel like there's kind of a power vacuum in that 1A right now that Seiford could take advantage of. But I think the story for the Henlopen South this year is the fact that we have most of the Henlopen South back together in that 2A District 3. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch with Delmar, Laurel, Lake Forest, Milford, all going at it.
Yeah, and obviously Sussex Tech and Woodbridge as well. All those different teams will be able to give Laurel a much steeper competition than Laurel faced in the couple years that they were in the 1A for. I think the only teams that were able to beat Laurel in the past couple of seasons were other 2A teams. I think it was Delmar and Woodbridge.
Yeah, they did beat 2A teams last year in Delmar and in Sussex Tech as well.
Yes, so it's just going to be a lot of competition for Laurel. I want to see how they're going to fare. I think they're going to be able to do very well. But as you mentioned, just a lot of teams are also focusing with just recycling and getting new players in and retooling instead of rebuilding. So we got to see how those teams are going to look this upcoming season.
And don't put a lot of stock into week 1 and week 2. We learn this every single year. Teams get better and better as the season goes along. We'll see what happens. That'll do it for the A block. We're calling our first timeout. But when we return, the Decatur Seahawks were mere seconds away from the 3A state championship last year. We're taking you out to the Hawks' Nest next on DSI.
Hi, my name is Mike Judy. I'm the head football coach at Smyrna High School, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.